This story is extraordinary, especially if it's true. And it all started in the desert, just north of Las Vegas.
A local scientist who's worked at Groom Lake
said to be where top-secret weapon systems have been tested over the years.
He has asked that his identity be shielded.
Exactly what's going on up there?
What's going on up there could be the most important event in history. Physical contact and proof from another system, another planet, another intelligence.
What would happen to you if the government learned that you were giving us this information?
He just wanted to stay alive.
Maybe this has been kept from us for a good reason.
Sir, how do we know you are who you say you are?
My name's Bob Lazar. I'm known for working at a classified base and reverse engineered alien spacecraft.
It went all over the world. You put Area 51 on the map.
Can we ever be made whole if we're not believed?
We can't verify what was going on in his background.
I have no motivation to lie.
The science and the technology can change us.
We've always looked to the skies for answers, instead of looking into ourselves.
The myth, the man, the legend, Thomas. How's it going, bud?
It's going great, man. Glad to be here again.
Yes, I love having you here.
Well, there's a specific topic I wanted to go on about today. You know, we kind of touched on it the last time I was here when we on our first episode.
Dude, I love how you went straight to it. I know you've been aching for this.
Ah, man, it's one of my favorite topics, really, to discuss. I feel like there's a lot of truth to it. Mm-hmm. How much you can prove, though, is like the big thing with people, and I understand that. I get it. It's like people are skeptics. I'm a skeptic too. Sometimes you feel like you got to put your faith somewhere, and I really like this guy that we're going to talk about today. I really think that he is genuine. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's bull crapping us. I think that this really happened, and it's such a crazy story. Especially the implications surrounding it. If it's all true, it's just that it would change the world and how we think about the universe and life out there and everything. So. Without further ado, Bob Lazar is the main figurehead surrounding a lot of conspiracy theory with Area 51 and reverse engineering UFOs and just he holds like just a huge place within the UFO community. I think like people think very highly of him, I think there's a lot of credibility just in terms of his character, and there's a genuineness that when he talks, I don't think that he's lying. I think that he's telling us the truth. So just to give a little bit of background of who Bob Lazar is, in I think 1982, he worked at a place called Los Alamos Labs, which is in New Mexico, and I think it's New Mexico or it's Nevada.
I believe it's in Nevada.
Is it Nevada?
Yeah.
Okay, so Los Alamos is in Nevada. And he worked out there doing Los Alamos Labs does all kinds of things. According to him, it's a place where they research physics, nuclear testing, things like that, just nuclear power. Long story short, he stays at Los Alamos Labs, moves to Las Vegas, cuts ties with Los Alamos Labs. But before that, when he lived there, he made he put a jet engine in a car. I don't know if you heard about that. No, I haven't heard of that. And so it's just kind of like a pet project of his. He put a jet engine in a car. Los Alamos put that on the front page of the paper at the time when he did this, and one day after, I don't know if it was after work or something like that, he knew that there was this guy doing this lecture. He's a huge huge scientist. He's like grandfather of the hydrogen bomb, I think it was. Oh, wow. I think it was, what was his name? If you give me 1 second. Anyways, he goes and he talks to this guy and lets him, and just to see him, he listens to the speech, talks to him, says, because he sees him after the guy's done doing his lecture, he sees him over so and so talking to some people, reading the paper, and it happens to be the paper where he's on the front page with his jet engine car or whatever. So he's like, "Hey, I'm the guy you're reading about in the paper."
Oh wow.
And so they sit and they talk for a while, and anyways, it's a good experience for him, and the guy likes Bob. So, anyways, Bob Lazar, moves anyway to Las Vegas, cuts ties with Los Alamos Labs, and he's eventually he wants to go back into some field of physics. He lives in Las Vegas right now, or at that time he's living in Las Vegas. He decides, and he was gonna throw out some letters and to some companies and see what happens. So I think it was Ed Teller was the guy who he's talked to. Yeah, I think it was Ed Teller, and he sends out a letter to him. He's one of the people he sends a letter to, and he remembers Bob from their conversation, and he ends up putting a letter of recommendation. I think it was a company called G&G Enterprises, and which they reach out to Bob, and they want to bring him into this special project, and he has no idea what the project is, but it is out in the Area 51 area. It's not right at where Area 51 is, where we all know of where Area 51 is at this point in time. And back then, we didn't even know there was an Area 51.
I'm sorry, is this in the late 80s?
Yeah, at this point, it's like late 80s. Because I think Bob came out about all this in 89. So it was before that that he worked there. And he didn't work there long. I don't know if it was even he worked there for a year.
What was it that got him shook up? What did he see? What is he claiming that he saw?
So eventually he gets out there, right? And he sees the hangar doors open to the side of this mountain. So they drive him out there.
Wow.
So they drive him out to where he's gonna work. And one of the he goes through some paper. I think the first day was like very mundane stuff. Like he didn't see anything on his first day, or it's a lot of paperwork and whatnot. But one of the days he gets out there, the hangar doors are open, and he sees what looks like a flying saucer. And I think it's like several flying saucers. I think in total he says there's 9 out there. So this wasn't at Area 51. This was at a base called S4, which is like a subsect of Area 51. So it's like, I think he said it's like 15 miles south of Area 51 or something, and it's built into the side of a mountain. And there's hangar doors that are textured to, look like the side of the mountain. So it's like camouflaged. But anyways, he goes out there one day, and the doors are open, and they take him through the hangar doors, and he walks past the craft that he ends up working on, and he puts his hand on it and immediately gets yelled at for it, and is like, your arms and your hands to your side, and keep moving. But he doesn't think anything of it really at the time. He doesn't think, oh, this is a alien spacecraft. Oh, holy crap. He just thinks that, man, this is like why we have all these UFO sightings, is what we think are UFOs is actually a new stealth fighter maybe, or something that it's American made.
So are these aerial phenomenal well, they didn't call them back then like that, aircrafts, but these UFO spaceships, now were these made here on Earth, or was it from out of Earth?
It seems to be consensus that it was out of Earth, that this is not something that we
Because
have.
I did read somewhere where it said that he saw there was an American flag sticker on them. Is that correct?
Yeah, like he had somebody had stuck an American flag on it, like
it was made in America, or
or that this is like American property or something like that, But it quickly came to like his understanding that this was not something that came from Earth, that this was not made by whoever stuck that on there. It's like a decal or something like that. Like they didn't this is not something America made, or that anybody on Earth made, according to him. And so he's read into some documents, and at the time he doesn't know if the documents if it's bull crap in the documents or not, because what the documents are saying is that this is an alien craft, and it comes from the Zeta Reticuli star system, and all this stuff that he doesn't know if that's true or not.
Mhm.
But the stuff that in terms of like how the craft operates and whatnot, that stuff is definitely true because he witnessed that firsthand. So it's if that stuff's true, then that kind of leads you to maybe think the other stuff is probably true as well. So, but he does, for the record, state that in very high security jobs like this, or in something that has such high security, there's going to be
High profile?
there's going to be misinformation fed in
Right.
in some instances. So he can't confirm or deny, that that's not what's happening. The only thing that he knows for sure is that the craft did operate the way that the documents said.
Mhm.
And so would you lean towards then that the rest of it is true? Or would you lean more towards is that the misinformation is like the alien stuff is the misinformation, but the technology part is true? So you got to kind of, I think the alien stuff is probably true as well, just also based on, especially now, with the David Grush thing where he said that, like, there's more than just Bob Lazar. There are high level officials that have, kind of testified that we're not alone and that there is alien crash retrieval programs out there. And that's most likely what Bob was working on.
Yeah, I mean, you have to believe it because, I mean, you don't have to believe it, obviously, but the facts don't lie pretty much. Why are they having aerial spacecraft?
Yeah, many sightings.
Yeah, there's so many sightings. No one just makes that shit up.
Yeah. Not to say that it's all real, but like there's a percentage that is real. You know, it might be a small percentage.
Do you think they exaggerate or anything like that?
I think there's a lot of fake out there,
Mm-hmm.
but there is definitely the ones that are real too.
But I feel like that's kind of on purpose.
Yeah.
You don't want to be. You want the people to like think.
You could just easily,
oh, this ain't true.
Yeah, you could just totally like toss this out the window because there's so much fake out there.
Right.
When the real thing comes across, you're just like, that's fake too.
Yeah. And I think that's purposely planned. When it comes to
definitely
anything Area 51,
yeah,
it's not by accident. Everything is purposely planned, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, man, that's extraordinary just to think about that.
And there's been government officials that they talk and they're like, oh, definitely there's whole groups of government employees who sit around and try to think of ways that we can lead the public astray. There are so many like contingencies for something that if this comes out, how do we steer the public's eye one way or another?
Well, it's kind of hard to deny too because I saw that he has a lot of like blueprints of these ships, right?
Drawings, yeah, he's made drawings and kind of like his own like this is what I've seen, this is how this is how it operates and things like that. Maybe not exact blueprints, but diagrams of what he witnessed. Yes.
Did he ever say anything special about it, like how it runs? So I'm sure you don't run off of gas.
Yeah. So there's when he first like worked on it and was shown it, it was shown to him how the craft could turn on and stuff. There was a reactor that he described that's basically a platform with half a hemisphere, or if you want to imagine like half of a basketball or something, was about the size he said it was like half a basketball. So like a dome that would lift up.
So it's actual size of a like what? Because he says the spacecraft was too small for any human to go inside. Is that correct?
Right. It seemed like it was made for something much smaller than an adult human. There were seats, there was seating in there, and that looked like it was something for somebody who was like 3 foot tall.
Yeah.
So, but the reactor itself was small. It was inside the craft, and it was like a dome that like had a top that you could lift off. And he said it was load sensing, so when there was a load present, it would turn on. When there was no load, it would turn off. So, and if you lift the dome, that would turn it off. He said there's a number of ways that it would turn off. So there was a fuel source as well, that would run the craft and which powered it, and that was like the Element 115. If you listen to any of the videos, he talks about Element 115.
I mean, Bob Lazar, his IQ is beyond my comprehension. He's a very smart human being.
Yeah, he speaks well about it,
He
you know, and
speaks
that's like
well.
another thing to attest to his credibility. I feel like his story's never changed.
Yeah.
And he always speaks very clearly about what he's.
What is his background? What kind of degree does he have to be qualified for something like this?
Oh, I know he had like a like some type of physics degree. I just can't remember exactly. Let me see. I'm gonna just take a second to look that
Yeah,
up.
no,
'Cause,
fine.
I didn't have that right here in front of me.
I mean, I'm assuming it has to be some kind of engineering degree.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So let's see. Graduated from high school. Science course he took. Chemistry. He attended Pierce Junior College in Los Angeles. National contracting company that provides support staff to Los
Wow.
Angeles within blah, blah. Yeah, so I know his education claims, like, so Lazar claims to have obtained a master's degree in physics from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and in electronics from the California Institute of Technology. However, both universities show no record of him.
of course.
Right. So, and back then it was file cabinets. It was very easy to erase somebody. You know, if you're the government and you have unlimited resources, how hard is it to just go and stroll into a university and, you know, delete some records or
Well,
burn some records?
not just his degrees. I mean, he's completely erased. Supposedly, according to the government, he don't exist.
Right.
Social Security's gone. Any
Yeah.
kind of filing is gone. But how?
Which I think is evidence in itself.
Yeah.
You know, how many people get like buried that deep, you know?
Yeah, that's crazy to me. How can you erase somebody that's never been erased?
Yeah.
And,
And friends of his, people who interact with him, get messed with by the government, you know? So it's,
Really?
yeah. So there's a
Wow.
lot of testimony out there to tell you that says, you know, and that's why he doesn't talk about it much, is because he feels like anytime he comes out and he talks about something, you know, that, you know, something happens to the people he talks to, you know, and
they end up,
so maybe not dead or just like financially ruined, or their
maybe they erase
character-
them as well.
yeah,
You think?
or their character is just ran into the mud, you know.
That's crazy.
You know, so it's something that he doesn't talk about fondly, and you know, for the longest time, never got any type of compensation for bringing it up. You know, so I don't know if he even is now. You know, I think that he could be getting something, but
Yeah,
what
I mean,
that is monetarily, I don't know.
I can't imagine the pressure that the government says, you know, you do not exist. You're not a human being. You're nothing. You're erased.
Dude.
I can't imagine the feeling of that. And then on top of that, you know, separating from his wife,
Basically ruined his life. to
ruined
come
his
out
whole
with
life.
this
No
whole thing.
social,
Yeah.
no. You can't get credit cards. You can't get any kind of financial assistance, you know, because you have no social security. You can't get a job. I mean, how's it? I can't.
Yeah,
imagine.
I don't know if he's ever been able to, you know, get his social security in order, and if he hopefully he had his birth certificate on hand. He's like, hey, I am a person, you know, like hold this up, you know, like.
Well, if they
I don't
erased
know.
everything, I'm sure he has no birth certificate.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. Well, maybe. I mean, my mom has a copy of my birth certificate in her closet, so I mean, I'm sure you have hard copies somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, but
Just in case they want to erase you, huh, Thomas?
yeah, just in case. Yeah.
That's crazy. No, yeah, that's something I could never imagine
Yeah.
the fear, the way you have to live,
Mm-hmm.
a fear from the government. And I'm sure he doesn't stay in one spot because once they get a hold of him, they're not going to let him go.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't.
Do you know anything that they've even tried to track him down?
Well,
Somebody that's been erased?
Yeah. Well, so that trailer that we played at the beginning of the podcast
Yeah.
was from a movie that's out right now. It's the it's like called Area 51, Bob Lazar and Flying Saucers or something, or Bob
Okay.
Lazar story. Area
Check it out,
51 and
folks, on
Flying
YouTube.
Saucers. Yeah, it's I think directed and produced by Jeremy Corbell. Which, if you listen to the Joe Rogan podcast, he came on to the Joe Rogan podcast with Bob Lazar,
Right.
and
yeah.
And just you know, just kind of as like a wingman for Bob Lazar, because he was very, you know, kind of recluse at this point, you know, in his life. So he's just kind of giving him that extra push to come out and talk, which I respect Jeremy Corbell for that. I know Jeremy Corbell got a lot of flack, I think, on the podcast just for, you know, I don't know why. People just wanted to talk crap for whatever reason. But
Yeah.
I thought it was really good that, you know, he had that.
I think he got a lot of shit because a lot of people don't believe Bob Lazar. You think that might be it?
A lot of people don't, you know, and which is, you know, you have to like take the story for what it is and make a decision whether or not you want to believe it. I think there's a lot of people that just, they live and die by hard evidence, and which I respect that. I understand, the need for hard evidence, and so it's not to me a sight on Bob that nobody wants to believe. He doesn't want people to believe it, really, because it just brings more attention to him.
Right. He doesn't seem like that person that wants
Yeah,
attention.
he doesn't want the attention. So you have to just take the information, make a decision whether or not you believe it or not.
Has he been involved with anything else besides spacecraft?
I think there's other like business ventures he's had, but I'm not sure what they are.
Yeah, this was the main one. Probably
this was the big one, in his life. This was like kind of followed him his whole life. So it's the one that everybody wants to talk about. I want to talk about. So it's like this is what he's famous for.
And because I know he got a divorce because of not being at home. Because he couldn't tell his wife.
Couldn't tell his wife about what was going on. And
do you think the FBI kind of influenced her in any kind of way?
They tapped his phones for sure, because at one point in time they read a transcript of a conversation he had with him with his wife and whoever she was having an affair with.
So she was having the affair.
She was having the affair,
and he found out through them.
He found out through them.
Wow.
Yep.
Can you imagine? You can't say anything, can't do anything, then you find out that by the government itself that your wife's having an affair. That's crazy. But to me, like,
so, and actually I want to touch on that a little bit more, because the reason why Bob came out about this whole thing, why he didn't stay and work on UFOs and stuff like that, was specifically that reason was because they stopped calling him into work at some point.
Oh.
And it was because his wife was having the affair. Because they thought that he was in an unstable environment at his home.
And he was going to crack.
So they wanted to give him a break, kind of see what he was going to do. And he didn't do well, apparently.
Wow.
Because he ended up spilling all the beans. Because he was scared at this point. He didn't know why. He didn't know his wife was having an affair. He didn't know why they weren't calling him back into work.
This is what I think when I hear a story like this. I wonder if anything to the government happened, like the guy that she was having an affair with was influenced by the government. They said, look, this is what
that
we
would be
need to do.
crazy.
That would be crazy.
Yeah.
And it's not impossible.
And it wouldn't be impossible either. No.
Because that's what I'm really thinking right now. I'm thinking, you're having an affair. You can't tell your wife. They know. The government knows that he can't say anything. That's all classified.
Mm-hmm.
Why not give this guy an affair? Make him
to see how he handles it.
See how he can handle the pressure. And then on top of
that.
Great
point. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah. And then on top of that, you're like, okay, we'll see where we can go from here. And then the whole thing was just staged by the government to get him away from talking to his wife. Because he had no children. Is that right? Or
right.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's another conspiracy in itself. I mean, the government could do that easily, right, Thomas?
Yeah. No, I think that's actually very, very plausible. That they planted somebody in her life, to maybe create some kerfuffle just to see how he handled it.
They get some Brad Pitt looking motherfucker.
Yeah.
Be like,
yeah.
Be like, hey, yeah, that's
work
crazy.
your magic on this girl. See what happens.
Do your thing. You ain't the only one being investigated here. That's awesome. But no, just the thought about. And you would crack. Anybody would crack, probably, don't you think?
I think you would be very afraid. You're working on this beyond the cutting edge of technology, aircraft, that nobody else has. At this point, this is definitely not human made. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, this is like the level of the nuclear bomb. The level of like secrecy that is involved here is like when we were making the nuclear bomb, and we couldn't tell anybody about it. And had to be it was so buried in secrecy, This is that level of secrecy. The amount of power generated by this thing is whoever controls this technology controls the world.
Yeah.
So that's the level of secrecy we're talking about here. So for him to work on a project like this and then suddenly be cut out, it would scare the heck out of you. So his only option to him at that point was to talk about it. That's my only way to protect myself now. I feel like
maybe he
they
found
could
out
kill
that
me at any time.
He found out that the government was after his wife. Fuck you guys. I'm gonna say some shit now.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I hear you. That's pretty remarkable. Well, I mean, was there anyone else involved in these besides Bob Lazar? Like anyone similar, or was it just like a Bob Lazar project that only he knew?
Well, he's the only one that came forward, at least in terms of somebody who had a hands-on with this
Right.
project. So he talks about other people that he worked with. Where they are and who they really are, we don't know. He mentions one guy by the name of Barry was his lab partner, and which he gets the impression Barry didn't get out much. Barry probably had nobody. This was probably Barry's life, was this job, this guy that Bob worked with.
You think that's a coincidence that they
What?
picked him? That it was a guy that had nobody, no life, no family.
That's
no,
not a coincidence. I feel like
You don't think so?
Yeah, no. I feel like they don't want people who have.
Dude, it's so
a
strange,
crazy
right?
home life.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to have a huge circle of people that you talk to, probably. When you work on a project like this, and the government knows that they don't want you to be a huge person in the community or something like that. So, and that's like what also makes it hard in science. If you're gonna try to make headway on a project like this, you can't put the best minds probably on it. You can't put the people who are the best of the best. You run too much security risk of like information getting out.
Yeah.
So and they keep it very compartmentalized. Like the part that Bob worked on only was, I think, the like maybe the propulsion aspect or something like that. I can't remember exactly. I think it was the propulsion aspect, because I think that was what he got the job for, was for advanced propulsion, something generic like that. So I think his area on the project was the propulsion system.
Wow.
So
That's crazy.
Yeah, he found out, and he goes into some detail about how the craft operated. He talks about that there's like a guiding rod that runs around the center of it, and that kind of like focuses the gravitational field that's produced, because that's what this thing does. It produces a gravitational field, which is something that he says that we have no ability to do. Like we can create magnetic fields, but that's totally different. This thing was producing a gravitational field, which takes huge amounts of energy. Huge. Like we're talking about, nuclear type of energy, like this is, to be able to do this is like magic to us,
I don't think a lot of people would understand.
Yeah.
Even high engineers, probably. Anyone in physics, high engineers. I wonder why he got chosen, though. Do you have any idea why he might have got chosen for that part?
Well, the reason he gives is that he thinks that they were at a stale area in the project. They weren't making a lot of headway, and they just were trying to throw somebody random at it just to see, fresh set of eyes, a fresh brain. Can we make any headway? Can this guy do anything? Can he figure anything out about it?
That makes sense.
And he thinks that it's a project that they don't have. It's not something they're working on all the time. It's something they bring out every so often to, it's like, okay, we got this far. Let's put it away, bring it back out, and see if we can make any more progress later on, So it's not something that there's probably a certain, one or two that are always, working on it. But I think there's like major tests and everything like that done every now and then, not like often. They're not working on this all the time.
Why do you think that is? They don't work on it all the time.
Just to keep security, just so that people don't get wise to what they're doing. Yeah, and Bob Lazar was privy to some information while he worked on it. He knew like flight log times of when they were gonna flight test it and things like that. He brought people out to the flight tests when he knew they were gonna be, which they were always at some weird hours of the night, for again security reasons. So he did this a couple times. I think it was on the third time he got caught, and it was like 3 people he had out there, watching, and they were getting pretty stupid about it. He said they like brought like an RV out there and stuff one night.
Hey, let's camp it out, see some spaceships.
Yeah. So he got in a lot of trouble, and I think that's when, that was after he stopped getting called in to work too, and that was They called him in, I think, one more time after he
spilled the beans.
Yeah, after he spilled the beans, and he got what he got actually was a phone call.
Why?
Mhm.
My question is, why don't you think they just grabbed them? I mean, they could have eventually do anything they wanted. They could have imprisoned him, framed him, do anything. Why
Mhm.
not call him in and be like, you know what? This is. I need you to come into work today, and this might be your last day. And once he gets in there, boom,
Yeah.
get him.
I think there's a level I think before they made that decision that they wanted to X him out,
Yep.
he got some type of contingency plan in place.
Oh, okay.
So in the case of his death, something might happen.
He did say something about that, right?
He did. So what he alludes to that he was able to smuggle some of this element 115, this stable element 115
Damn.
out. And he doesn't, and whenever they talk, they bring up that question in podcasts or in interviews, he won't even talk about it.
Why do you think
He'll
that is?
stop talking about it. Well, because I think that the government knows he has this. They want it back.
Oh, shit.
They are doing whatever they can. So, like, I think during the filming of that documentary with Jeremy Corbell, they talk about Element 115 for just a little while,
Mm-hmm.
and like literally either that same day his house gets raided,
Wow.
and whatever reason they give some reason why. Obviously, they're not saying like we're looking for the Element 115. You know, they give some bullcrap reason why they're raiding him. But Jeremy Corbell was there when he got raided.
Wow.
So again, go watch the documentary if you want more information on that, because they definitely talk about that more, and I think they talk about it on the podcast with Joe Rogan as well. So there's a lot of information out there about this, you know, and I encourage anybody to go listen to his interviews from the 80s, listen to his podcast, go check out the documentary, because it's a lot of good information. It's a very interesting story.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure. I definitely have to check it out.
Yeah, he goes into a lot about, you know, how the craft operated. There's 3, you know, gravitational generators that, you know, the way that they swing determines how the craft moves, which way the craft goes. And
So let me ask you this: what surprises you or shocks you more about this story that you're so obsessed about?
Well, even before I heard about it, I had an interest, you know, and I felt like this was the most credible, the most likely, it rung the most truth to me than basically anything else that I've heard, you know.
Right.
And I think that this is the only person that really had hands-on with this technology that's come forward to talk about it. And there's a lot of evidence to support, you know, because even the fact that he worked at Los Alamos Labs was they tried to call that into question, which they eventually proved he did work at Los Alamos Labs, because they found an old phone book an old employee phone book with his name in it. You know,
Oh, wow.
so they couldn't totally erase everything. They were able to prove some, and I think if they could prove at least some of it, I feel like it's all true.
Do you think they're still after him? They're just
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Wow.
You know, maybe, you know, in the event of him,
Will he ever get caught? You think?
I mean, they know where he's at. He's living some semblance of some life. You know, but I think that they're always going to be watching him.
Always, huh?
Always.
For the rest of
yeah.
his life?
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
At least until it becomes a point of like, it doesn't matter. Which, you know, we're never going to be able to back engineer a UFO. Let me just say that right now. I don't think that that's ever going to happen. So I think this project's going to be around a long time, and we're not going to know, not in our lifetime, you know, the whole depth of what's going on.
Man. And do you think there's other Bob Lazars out there?
I think there's definitely other people out there working on this project, you know, so there's always that potential that somebody is going to come forward one day besides just Bob Lazar.
I feel
it's
like-
kind of crazy that he's the only one. Maybe what happened to him was, you know, enough to kind of like steer other people away from you know, messing with things. So
Okay.
I think that what happened to him, it made people scared to talk. So people don't want to talk who are working on this project. They don't want to come forward.
Yeah, they don't want to lose their wife, huh?
Yeah, they don't want to lose their wife, their family, their lives, you know.
They don't want to be
their
erased.
careers, and totally erased, you know.
Isn't that crazy how much control the government has? on people.
It's insane, dude. It's really sad too, that we can't trust, the government. We really can't. There's just so much misinformation, and so they've already come out and about a lot of stuff that they've lied about, and they've said they've lied about. I don't know if you've ever read an MK Ultra or something like that. If you've ever heard of MK Ultra,
I have not, no.
That's another time, a podcast for another day, dude.
Oh,
because
okay, there you go.
That's a huge conspiracy right there. We know the government lies about crap. So,
oh, for sure, the government definitely lies,
mm-hmm.
and to cover their ass.
Yeah,
course,
I mean, it's all in the name of national security, but I think there's a level of abuse out there eventually. That's what happened with Edward Snowden. He knew there was a level of abuse happening with a project like
that's
this.
That's a crazy motherfucker right there.
Yeah,
that guy, he had some stories. You've looked into it?
Oh yeah. When
that's
all
another
was happening.
podcast for another day.
Definitely
for
we'll
sure.
have to touch on that eventually for sure. But Bob Lazar, man, a crazy story. I encourage everybody to go out there, research that, and listen to the interviews. And there's a lot of information we didn't cover about Bob Lazar. And we might have to do a part 2 on this one. Because. He even talks about religious documents that he got from the government dealing with the same project,
really?
Deals with religion.
Wow.
So, we can talk about that.
Yeah, a lot of these podcasts, we try to do it as briefly as possible because, we don't have all day. We can talk about Bob Lazar for 4 or 5 hours.
Easily.
Same with the previous episode with John Paul. The first, we can definitely talk about 4 or 5 hours. But we try to condense it as much as can, and if we decide to talk more about it, we can do part 2 for sure. Mm-hmm. But anyways, Thomas, you're the man, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate you letting me go off on a subject I have a passion about.
Anytime.
This is a lot of fun for me.
You're definitely a smart dude, and I love hearing what you got to say, man.
You too.
So
thanks, bro.
Well, thank you, everybody. And anything else you want to say before we leave here, Thomas?
No, just thanks for listening. Y'all be safe out there. Have a great night.
Yep. Thanks a lot.